column chart. So over here I've got 12-month data for company A. It's showing the company A sales and profit over 2016. So I've got the total sales over here. I've got the profit. Now company A has two products, product AB and product BC, and this is the profit from both of these products. If you sum up this is 5984, which is equal to the total profit over here. I've got this 12-month data over here and I want to plot a column chart which will have total sales and profits across months. So I'll go to insert and I'll click on the column chart over here. But just to call it out, in different Excel versions, in the older versions at least, it will be shown, this area would be shown differently, but the underlying structure remains the same. So you'll have the column charts over there, you'll have line charts, you'll have pie, static charts, scatter plots, etc. So let's go to insert column or bar chart. So right now I want to insert a clustered column chart. As you can see in the description, it's mentioned that use this chart type to compare values across a few categories, or use it when the order of categories is not important. So let's click on it. And as you can see that when you selected this data and went to insert a chart, Excel automatically plotted those data points over here. So let's just zoom in a bit so that it's more clearer to you. So I've got the legend over here. Using these buttons over here, this says that I can add or remove or change chart elements such as the title, legend, grid lines, and data labels. So let's click on it. And for legends, I'll click on it. I want the legend and I'll click on this black arrow and I'll click on top. So now the legend has shifted to top. For the chart title, I'll have company A sales and profit 2016. So over here you can see that total sales are represented by the blue bar, whereas my profit is represented by the orange bar. I can now add the axis titles also. So I'll click on the chart, I'll click on plus, axis title, primary horizontal and primary vertical. So it has added both of them. If I untick this, then this will remove the primary vertical axis title. Let's click on it and now we can edit. So this is months and this is sales slash profit in dollars. Now how to read this chart? What you can see is that the sales over here, they are plotted over here. So if I go to January 16, it shows me that the sales of January 16 were $17,952, which is somewhere between 15,000 and 20,000 over here. Similarly, the profit for January 2016 is just over 5,000. Take a moment over here, and if you want to pause the video for a minute, please do, and try to see a pattern over here. Note it down, and then once you unpause it and play the video again, then we can discuss this. So as you may have noticed that the sales are going up every quarter, and as soon as a new quarter begins, the sales drop down again and then they sort of start picking up again, then they drop down again. So that has been the trend throughout the year. Similarly, if you look at the profit also, the profit is also following the same pattern. So every quarter end, it's the highest. And overall, if you look at the entire year, the sales have been increasing at the end of the year. If we compare it from the start of the year, or if we compare the quarter ends also, in the last month, December 16, the sales were the highest and so was the profit. So this graph clearly shows that there's a really close correlation or relationship between the sales and profit, which in real life is the case. Let's zoom out a bit. Now, One important thing which I would want to point out over here is that right now when you selected this entire data which you wanted to plot, and when you went to insert chart, this got populated automatically. But there is another way by which you can plot data in a chart. So let's say I just select a blank chart, and now I'll do a right click. I'll click on select data. So my chart data range would be, and I click on OK. Now Excel has automatically put the months in the horizontal axis, as you can see over here, and it has put sales and profit in the vertical axis. I can automatically switch all the values from here to there, but this won't make sense. Similarly, right now it is fetching the correct data, so I don't need to make any edits or anything. So for series name, it is selecting this, and for series value, it is selecting the correct cells. So let's click on OK. If I want to remove total sales, I can just select total sales and click on remove, or similarly, I can add more series to it also. So let's just click on OK. So this is another way by which you can insert charts, or you can insert data in a chart. Now let's come to formatting of this. So whenever you click on the chart, this conceptual tab of design or format appears over here. So in the design toolbar, you've got these different ways by which you can make changes to your chart. So if I use style 8 over here, this is how my chart will appear. But let's just do a control Z, clicking on the chart again, design. Similarly, I can change colors over here. And as you can see, as you're scrolling through the different colors, the colors and the bars, they are changing. Similarly, you can select more data, or you can switch row or column, something which you can also do by right clicking on the chart and selecting data. And then you get these options from here also. From here, you can change the chart type quickly. And from here, you can move the chart also, but moving the chart can be by just clicking on it and then just dragging it somewhere else. Or you can also do a cut and then paste it somewhere else. Then you can again drag it wherever you want. So now let's talk about the other format. So one thing is around chart styles. So this just tells me the different charts, something which we had in the design option also. Similarly, colors, what we had just seen. And if I want to remove total sales, and if I click on apply, total sales is removed. Now I just got the profit, but let's undo it and click on apply again. Okay, now we'll discuss about the formatting of these horizontal or vertical axis. I've selected the horizontal axis by clicking on it. Now I'll click on format axis. This gives me different options. So Excel has right now automatically taken the minimum date, start date as 1st January 2016 and the maximum as 1st December 2016. Uh, I've got these fill and line options. So if I do a solid fill, then I can color my horizontal axis also. If I do a gradient fill, then also I can color it. But let's just do a no fill. That is usually the case. Let's see what happens when we do a solid line. So a solid line appears over here, which is good. Usually the line is there. It's shown with the black color. Now let's format the vertical axis. So over here right now Excel has taken automatically the minimum value as 0 and the maximum as 40,000. The major units, the difference is 5,000. So you can change these also. If you do a 10,000, and right now you can see that now you've got scale from 0 to 10,000, 10 to 20, then 20 30, and then 30 to 40. But let's just do a control Z. So if you click on number right now, Excel has automatically taken it as currency. These are different options which you can explore, but as such, they're just there to beautify your chart. Let's move on to the main chart. Now, this area is called the format plot area, and this entire area is called the format chart area. So if you click on the chart itself, it shows format chart area over here, and if you just click on the inner one, it shows the format plot area. So when you click on the entire format chart area, you've got these different options which you can explore. So most of them are related to fill. If I do a solid fill, you can color the entire chart. Gradient fill, this is all there to beautify the chart. Right now let's select a no fill. If I want a solid line, usually it's automatic, so automatically there is a line outside, this is gray. But if I select a solid line which is black, so as you can see the border of the chart is now black. Let's just do it automatic. Similarly, if you select rounded corners, as you can see that now the corners are rounded. If I do a control Z, you will be able to see the difference. Effects, again all related to how you want to beautify your chart. Let me select top right, and yeah, as you can see this line sort of starts appearing over here, this sort of shaded part which gives it a good feel. Let's look at format plot area. Again, you've got the same options over there. If I do a solid fill, this will get colored. You can change the colors from here. If I do a gradient fill, then it will get changed. Let's select a no fill right now. This is for solid fill, and this is for the border. So as you can see, there's a blue colored border now. Shadows, again very similar to what we just saw. Side, let's just do a blue color. So you can see a blue shaded line appearing now. Let's look at the bars itself. So when I click on any of these data series bars, it says format data series. So right now it's a automatic fill of this color. We saw that using the design bar also over here, we can change the types of colors, but you can do it from here also. So let's say if I want to select a light blue one, let me just do an automatic right now. Similarly, this will again create a shadow. In the first example where we discussed the components, we had discussed about the secondary axis. So over here, I won't be discussing it right now. We'll discuss some other charts and then we'll come back to secondary axis. Another way to format these is by clicking on the bars and then doing a right click, and then you can do format data series. Similarly, you can add labels also. If I do a format data series, I'll have this window again open. So yeah, it's one and the same thing. So let's look at the other charts in column bar. So this one which we discussed was a clustered column, and it's basically used when we got two or more variables which need to be plotted on a graph. Now I'll delete this and then we look at the second type of column chart, which is the stacked column chart. So when I click on stacked column chart, it shows me use this chart type to compare parts of a whole or show how parts of a whole change over time. So over here, this is not used for comparisons. As you can see, the cluster chart was for comparing values across a few categories or months. This is not usually used for comparing, but it is used mostly for showing the composition or the contribution. So let's select this and then do a right click, select data. Now I've got months over here and I want to show my profit from AB. So I will select my months first, then I'll select control and then I'll select the rest of it. Now I'll click on OK. So as you can see that my months will be plotted in the x-axis and profit from product A, B, and product BC will be plotted on the vertical axis. Let me add a legend first. Legend on top. Let me just maximize it a bit. Okay, so over here, I've plotted company A, product AB, and BC profit. So what this is right now telling me is that the total profit for company A was in the month of January 16 was around 5,000. But what it also tells me is the contribution of these two products in a particular month. As you can see in the first month, product AB was contributing more to the profit as compared to product BC, which is evident from the numbers also over here. So what I would want you to now again do is take a couple of moments, pause this video and think about what sort of trend or information you are getting from this graph. There are some observations over here. One is something which we had discussed in the previous chart also, that the profit increases at the quarter end and then it reduces at the beginning of the next quarter. Then it again increases. Then profit has been increasing ever since. If we look at the quarter ends also, December had the maximum profit. And there is another one that most of the times product AB is contributing more to the profit as compared to product BC. But there is one month, August 16, where product BC is contributing more as compared to product AB, which is the case over here if you look at August 16 numbers. Uh, Now this particular composition or how much contribution which is coming from each of these products will be more clearer when we look at the third type of chart, which is the 100% stacked column. Because in this particular chart, we will be calculating percentages. Over here, it's the actual value. So out of 5,984, we have 3,740 from one and 2,244 from one. But when we look at them in percentages, the maximum percentage can be 100%. Over here, we've got the profit, which is varying from one month to another. So comparing them across months is slightly tricky. Now, let's just change this to a 100% stacked column. So all I need to do is I'll click on this chart. I'll go to insert. I'll click on 100% stacked. This says compare the percentages that each value contributes to a total, or show how the percentage that each value contributes changes over time. So as you can see that product AB is contributing almost 60% every month. But for some reason in the month of August 16, it just contributed around 40%. If you scroll over the charts or the bars also, you can see the actual values. But when you look at the percentage basis, when you've got the entire scale as 100%, this sort of chart comes in real handy. So this is what we have on column charts. Now there are some sort of 3D charts also, but let's just take an example of a 3D chart also. Let's say this is a 3D 100% stacked. So let's say I just click on this chart again and I'll change it to a 3D column, 100% stacked column. So as you can see, it's just the appearance which changes. Otherwise, there is no additional information which you are getting from this particular chart. So it's all about beautifying your charts. If I look at the 3D stacked column, again, the appearance is definitely better as compared to a normal 2D stacked column chart. Now with the column charts discussed, we'll move on to the bar charts. Bar charts, again, I've got the same example over here because bar charts are exactly the same as compared to a column chart. Just that for the bar chart, the horizontal axis is my y-axis, my vertical axis. So let's just see how this works. Again, I'll select this. Over here, if I select 2D bar, as you can see now, my salary is getting plotted over here on the horizontal axis and my months are on the vertical axis. So as such, there is not much difference. And because the data remains the same, we'll see the same behavior over here also. Now, which chart to use totally depends upon you. Usually people use column charts, but when there's an increase in the number of categories, people usually go with bar charts. Similar to column charts, you've got clustered bar chart, you've got a stacked bar chart, you've got a 100% stacked bar chart, then you've got the same in the 3D format also. So again, for the line charts, I've got the numbers over here. Expenditure of a household. So I've got for 12 months, I've got the water bill, electricity bill, I've got gas, petrol, and groceries. Now, where is line chart used? Line charts are used to identify trends in our data. Usually we can have data like if you've got bills over here, we can have data like height of students, speed of a car, changes to sales. So these all can be plotted over time and then line charts can be used to look at the trends. So let's start with creating a simple chart. So I'll select all this data. Now this is my simplest line chart. As you can see, it shows over here, use the chart type to show trends over time or use it when the order of categories is important. There are many data points. I'll just put the legend on the top. So click on plus top and I'll change the title. So this is my line chart over 12 months. I've got these 5 lines plotted for these 5 types of expenditures or bills. I've got the water with the blue line, electricity with the amber, gas with gray, petrol with yellow, and then groceries with again light blue. So again, take a couple of moments over here and think of all the trends which you can see. The first one we'll discuss is the water bill. So the water bill remains consistent throughout the year. As you can see from the data also, it's $29 throughout the year. So that's we've got a straight line. Moving on to the electricity, which is being represented by the amber line over here, this particular line. So as you can see in the initial months of the year, Jan, Feb, when it's relatively cold, the electricity bill is higher. But as we keep on moving towards the summer months, there's a dip in the electricity bill. And then from August, September onwards, it again starts picking up. Then it reaches its peak in December again. The next one is the gas bill, which is being shown by the gray line over here. There's a slight peak for the first 2 months. Again, after that, it sort of dips. And it's fairly consistent, so no particular trend, just that it's sort of higher towards December, Jan, and Feb, and it might be higher towards December, January because of the holiday season. Petrol, which is being highlighted by the yellow line over here. It's relatively consistent in the first quarter, and then it sort of starts picking up during the summer holidays, hinting towards that people start going out more often in summers. So reaches its peak in August, which is the holiday season. Then again drops down till October when winter starts coming in, and then again picks up in December 16, maybe because of the holiday season again. Groceries is being highlighted by the blue color over here, fairly consistent. I would say there's a slight rise in the holiday seasons in August, September around over here. Then it again dips, and in again December, it again picks up because of the holiday season. So these are all the trends which you can look at for a household. Then it becomes really important, and then they can also manage their expenditure accordingly. If they see that okay, they are spending more in these months on petrol, then they can try to reduce their expenditure on petrol over here. So this is how a simple line chart can also help in organizing your funds or organizing your expenditure or reducing your expenditure. Now, as we had looked at the bar or the column chart, for the line chart also we've got different types of charts. So this is a stacked line chart. As mentioned over here, use this chart type to show how parts of a whole change over time, or consider using a stacked area chart instead, as stacked line charts can be hard to read. So again, what this is basically showing me is the sum of all of these five expenditures over a month and the contribution for each of these. If I just look at for January 16, this line is around $400. If I sum the January 16 bill, it comes to around $395. So what this chart does is it keeps on adding values for each of these categories, and the sum comes at the top. So 29 is being represented between the x-axis over here and this particular blue line over here. Then from 29 we jump on to 159, which is representing the 130 dollars for the electricity bill and so on. But this chart is a bit difficult to read, so let's use the stack chart. Again, what does the stack chart say? Use this chart type to show the percentage contribution to a whole over time or categories. Show the change to the percentage that each value contributes over time. Consider using 100% stacked area chart because stacked line charts can be hard to read. So again, now we've got this 200% similar to what we had for 100% stacked column or 100% stacked bar. And now we can see the contribution for each of these to the total bill. So now take a couple of moments over here. Think about any of the things which this particular chart is highlighting, which I haven't spoken of as yet. So I'm not sure if you may have noticed this, but the contribution of the groceries bill to the entire bill is at its peak in December 16. Uh, then again for electricity over here, the contribution which it is leading to towards the entire bill is sort of higher towards January and 16, then it sort of reduces over here because the other bills start of contributing more. Now let's look at another line chart. So again, I'll click on this chart. I'll go to insert. Now this is line with markers, shows trends over time. So this is similar to the normal line chart, just that over here we've got markers also representing the data points. I can add the data labels also. So I'll just do a right click, add data labels. If I do an add call out, let's see. So what the add call out does is for each and every value, it will also show me which month that value is belonging to. But that is just too much of data and it just populates my plotting area and just makes a mess of my chart. So I'll just do a control Z. So now with the line chart done, we'll close this session over here, and in the next session we'll discuss the remaining type of charts. Pie chart is used to display the contribution of each value to a total value. So over here I've got the expenditure of a household which I'd used for showing the line chart, and I've just totaled the expenditure for the 12 months. So the entire 1 year expenditure for the household is around $4,592. Using a pie chart, all I need to do is I just need to select them together. I go to insert. Now pie chart. When I click on this, it says use a chart type to show proportions of a whole. Use it when the total of your numbers is 100%. So using this particular chart, I can very easily see that this blue over here, which is the groceries bill, is the largest expenditure or the highest expenditure over here as compared to the rest. Then the second close is the electricity, which is 1240, and then I've got petrol over there, which is around 1075. I can also add these data labels by just doing a right click and adding data labels over here. There is another version of pie chart which is called pie of pie or bar of pie. Over here you've got five components which are sort of equal in nature. But let's say I've got these two components which are like really small. So right now over here I am not able to see these two components at all. So what I can do is I'll select this chart. I'll go to insert. I'll click on pi. So what it does is it combines two different series over here and makes a separate chart of it. So over here I want to make a separate chart of 2 and 5. So what I can do is I'll do a right click, format data series. Values in second plot need to be 2, and which values by values less than 10. So when I do that, now what Excel does is it combines the two smallest values and then prepares a separate pie chart for both of them so that they are also visible. So this is when a pie of pi or bar of pi comes in handy. So just changing the chart type, this is how the bar of pi will look like. Let's move on to the XY scatter plot. Now this is used to observe or show the relationship between two variables. One variable has a scale on x-axis and the other on y-axis, that is the vertical axis. So I've got over here the name of 10 employees, I've got their age and salary, and I want to see if there is any particular relationship between age and salary. I'll select age and salary, I'll go to scatter plots and I'll click on scatter. This is used as chart type to compare at least two sets of values or show relationships between sets of values. So as you can see over here, what this is showing me is an increasing trend over here. Move on to the next, which is the area. Now these charts are very similar to a line chart and they are also used to look at the trend of a value over time. And just that the difference between a line and an area chart is that in an area chart, all the area below the line will be colored. Now I've got different types of area charts also. Let's go to insert, recommended charts, all charts, area. Now this is the simplest area chart. This is something which is not used and I'll show you why. When I click on OK, it has automatically taken this data. But over here, because the chart is supposed to color all the area below a particular line, over here the groceries is being shown by blue color, and because the groceries are having the highest bill, so that is why we are not able to see other charts at all. There were 2 months where electricity was higher than groceries. That is why we can just see them. So that's why the normal area chart is not used that much. Let's look at the other area charts. So this is a stacked area chart, which is used more often, similar to a stacked line chart again. So this shows the contribution of all these expenditures, different types of expenditures over months. Let's move on to the other chart, which is stacked, 100% stacked. Again, very much similar to 100% line. And the inferences are also the same as what we had discussed in the line chart because the numbers are the same. So we'll have the scale to 100% and the expenditure from each of these different types of bills will be plotted as a percent. So for example, for the first month, Jan 16, the total sum of expenditure or the total bill is $395. Let's select the percentage. I'll just change the format in a while. So what this is showing me is that in the first month of January 16, 7% of the bill came from water, 33 from electricity, 10% from gas, 18 from petrol, and 32 from groceries. So electricity was the main culprit over here. So these percentages are what have been plotted over here. So this is like bit less than 10%, so 7%. Then this is 33%. So if I add 7 and 33, I'll get 40. So that is why the second line is right at 40. Then I add another 10% to it, it makes it to 50%. Then I add 18%, it takes it to 68%, just below 70. And then I add another 32% to make it to 100%. So this is how a 100% stacked area chart works, and it's the same for 100% stacked line as well. Now let's move on to the other chart categories. We've got the donut first. So this particular chart is used to display the contribution of a value to the total, and it's just like a pie chart. The difference being it has a hole in the middle and it can have multiple series of data in the same graph. So over here I've got 5 companies and all of these companies have two products, product A, B and product B, C. I've got their corresponding profits also. I just want to plot the profits for each of them in a donut chart. So let's start with that. I'll go to insert, recommended charts, all charts. I'll go to pie, and in pie I've got donut. I'll select on donut. It will give me two options over here, profit from AB, profit from BC, but this one is more suitable to what I want right now. So I'll click on it and I'll click on OK. So how to read this chart? First of all, let me put the legend on the top. Legend on top, and I'll add data labels also. Okay. So let me just zoom in a bit. So over here, what it is showing me is that for company S1, profit from BC was $5,000, whereas profit from AB was $12,540. If you look at it, $5,000 as a contribution to the outer pie is small, whereas if you look at it, the contribution of $12,540 from the inner pie is quite significant. And as you can see from the data also, uh, company S1 has more profit from AB, company S2 has more profit from AB, company S3 also has the same thing. It's just that the company S5 is one which has less profit from AB, whereas it has more profit from BC, which can be seen over here also. S5 is represented by light blue. So from BC it has got a large pie over here, and from AB it has got just this small section over here, 2000 pounds. So this is just a donut chart. It's not used that often. When you've got multiple series, you can use them, but it just gets a bit messier. Let's look at the next graph, which is the radar. Again, this chart displays values relative to a center point. It has a separate axis for each category, which extends from the center of the chart to the border. Again, I'm taking the same example over here to insert. Let's just do a radar chart. Let's just zoom in a bit. So this is the scale which is being shown over here. So this is the profit from AB and this is a profit from BC. The scale is from 0 onward. As we keep on coming outside or away from the center, the numbers will keep on increasing. So for S1 it is showing over here $12,540, whereas from BC for S5 it is showing around $10,000, which is somewhere around here. There are different options within this also. So I've got this radar with markers, just adds markers similar to line with markers. And we've got fill radar. It just colors the area. So that's about it. Let's move on to the surface graph. I'll again select this surface. Now this shows trends in values across 2 dimensions and in a sort of a continuous curve. For using surface charts, we need at least two data series. So what this is showing me is profit from AB and profit from BC. So the different colors over here are implying the different ranges of profits. So if it is blue, it is $0 to $2,000. If it's amber, it's between 2,000 and $4,000. Then gray, $4,000 to $6,000, and so on. Then we have the bubbles. Now, this is again similar to a scatter plot, but a scatter plot looks at two variables only, whereas a bubble chart looks at three. And the third variable defines the size of the variable. So over here, I've got age, salary, and sales. And if we want to see a correlation between the three variables, we can clearly see with this particular graph. Let's see how it works. So I'll go to XY scatter plot. Over here I've got this bubble chart. Within the bubble chart also I've got two options. If I look at this one, this won't give me much idea, but the second one is more interesting to me over here. If I click on OK, let me just delete these lines. Now this is the age, this is the salary, and the size of the bubbles is the sales. So now what I want you to do is take a couple of moments, think about what we can interpret from here, and then if there is something which I'm missing, let me know. So over here, one thing is very clear, that is with the increase in age, the salary is also increasing. But the other thing which is also sort of clear is that as we keep on increasing the age, and the salary definitely keeps on increasing, but the circle size, which is representing the sales over here, that is also increasing. So, which sort of tells me that with age, a person is able to make more sales, probably because of his experience, and that then leads to a higher salary. Now, moving on to the stocks, I've got stock information for five stocks. I've got the volume which was sold, what was the share price when it was opened on the day, how high it went, what was the low price, and at what price it closed. In the stocks graphs also there are like four types of different graphs we have. So let's look at the first one. Recommended charts, all charts. Got the stock. The first one is the high low close. Now for this particular graph we'll need three types of data. One is the high, then the second is the low, and then the third is the close, which I've already got over here. So let me just select this, go to recommended charts, all charts, and then we'll go to stock, and I'll click on OK. I'll zoom in a bit. So what it shows is that, okay, I've got these stocks. Uh, for stock B, let's say the closing point was 235.26. The lowest point for this stock was 161.06. Now, what I want you to do is take a couple of minutes and think about what is being shown or what can be interpreted from this chart. Right. So one of the things is that though chart B has a really high stock price, but it has a lot of variability also, which can be seen from the data also. The high was at 237 and within the same day it went to a low of 161 also. So that is quite higher difference. Whereas the difference is slightly on the lower side when we talk about stock E over here. Right. Now let's move on to the second type of stock. This will be looking at the open, close, high and low price. Let me just select the data first. So over here again, this sort of gives me a block. So just on the top of this bar, we've got the high point. Then we've got the bar which sort of represents the open. Then the lower end sort of suggests the low of that day. The third type looks at the volume which was also traded on. So let's select this. So what this is doing is it is plotting the volume on vertical axis and it is plotting the stock prices of high, low or close on the secondary vertical axis. I'll just remove these lines. So again, as I said, for stock A, 500 sold on day one. For stock B, 100 sold. But maybe because the stock prices are quite high and there was a lot of variability. The last of these is volume, open, high, low, close. So it looks at all of them. Let me just change, select data. So yeah, again, volume on vertical axis and we've got prices on the y-axis. Now, sparkling charts are nothing but cell-sized graphs. They are of three types. So one is the line, which is similar to a line chart. Then the second one is column, which is similar to a column chart. And then the third one is a win or loss. Basically displays each point as a high block or a low block, and it comes in handy when we are trying to track changes as we move from one month to another. We'll take examples of each of them. I've got the line charts over here, I've got the column ones over here, and I've got the win loss over here. So we'll plot them one by one and we'll discuss them. So I'll just copy this data. Now I've got the household expenditure over here across months, and I've got these different types of expenditures. So I go to insert, I've got these different sparkling options. I click on line. It will ask me for a data range. I select this. I click on OK. And then I can copy it to the rest of the cells also. Sorry about that. What this is showing me over here is the variation of these values over months. So for water, this was consistent, so that's why it had a straight line. For electricity, it was high in the first 3 months and then it dipped. So you can see that it was high and then it has started dipping over and then it started again rising. Similarly, groceries again, it sort of is stable throughout, but then peaks in August and December. So that's why we see two peaks over here, one in the August month and then the other one in December. Similarly, we have the column charts also. So again, select the data range. So line chart plotted a line whereas the column chart plots bars. So for water, because it was consistent, so the bars are of equal height. Now for electricity, because the bill varies as we move from one month to another, so that's why you can see large bars or you can see really small ones also. Now the last one is the win or loss one. Basically what I've plotted over here is the difference as we move from one month to another. So for water, because the bill remains consistent, it is zero. So that is why the win or loss graph does not show anything over here. Wherever it is zero, it will not show anything. For electricity, as we move from Jan 16 to Feb 16, the bill increases by 5. But as we move from Feb 16 to March 16, the bill reduces by 25. So that's why minus 25. Similarly, for April 16 also it was negative. For May 16 also it was negative. Then for June 16, it was 0, so that is why no bar over here. Now, when you click on a Sparkline chart, let's click on this one. Because we've sort of copied them, they are a group now. When I go to design, I can select the high point. So for all of them, the high point will appear. Low point can also appear. Similarly, I can change the marker colors. For say low point, let me have it with some other color. Let me have it with gold. So that's why now you can see the low point is being shown by gold. There is no negative point. I can show first point, last points, or I can have markers for all of them, which just makes it a bit messy. Similarly, you've got these different line styles over here. If you say use this, then the line color will change and the marker color will automatically change basis what you consider over here. Now, another thing which you want to keep in mind over here is that most of the times Excel automatically takes these values and selects automatic for each sparkling chart. These are the vertical axis minimum value options or maximum value options. So you can play around with them to see how it impacts your chart. But the one which I will highlight over here is the date axis type. So what happens is usually when we plot time-based data, it is assumed by Excel that the data points are at equal intervals. But this may not be the case always, and in order to avoid wrong conclusion, we can use this date axis option. This usually works with column sparkling chart. So let's just copy this and let's remove the June data. So what I'll do, I'll copy paste the rest of the data on June's data. I'll insert a sparkling column over here. So as you can see now that earlier, if I do a control Z and I'll just zoom on this cell, I've got values for all these months. But when I applied date axis type option by just selecting these months, now there's a space in between. So now Excel also knows that okay, there is 1 month of data which is missing. So that is why it is showing a blank for that month. So just try and explore various options in the design tab. Sparkling charts are pretty neat and come in handy whenever you don't have enough space to plot a normal chart. Now, before we jump on to the discussion of which chart to use or when to use, I'll just show you how to add a secondary axis to your graph. So let's say I've got this particular series over here and let's say it was on the primary axis. So I've got both the series on the primary axis. I'll remove the data labels first. I'll select the series. I'll do a right click, format data series. This opens. I'll click on secondary axis and automatically Excel will give me a secondary axis with the age over there. I can change the chart type also by clicking on change series chart type. Now let's move on to the question of which chart to use. To be honest, there is no best answer to this, but use that chart which will most aptly describe your data, or you think it shows your message clearly to the target audience. There are, however, some points which you can always keep in mind. One is what are you trying to achieve from plotting a particular chart? Uh, are you trying to plot a comparison or a composition? So, for example, over here, if I wanted to compare profit from product A, B, and profit from product B, C, that is a comparison. So, for this, I can use column charts, I can use bar charts. When it comes to composition, so over here we looked at an example of the contribution of product AB to the entire profit and the contribution of product BC to the entire profit. So that is a composition. For the composition side, your 100% stacked charts come in handy. So your 100% stacked column chart, your 100% stacked bar chart, 100% stacked line, or 100% stacked area chart will also come in handy then. Then the next question which you can ask yourself is, are you trying to identify a particular trend or a pattern? For that, you can use a line chart. When it comes to understanding relationships, so we had looked at in our example over here the XY scatter plot. So the XY scatter plot shows me the relationship between age and salary. But then the bubbles chart also shows me the relationship between age, salary, and sales. So for understanding relationships, you can use such charts. For compositions, as I said earlier, that you can have 100% stack charts. You can have pie charts also for compositions, because over here we are just looking at what is the composition or the contribution of these individual items to the overall item. Now this brings us to the end of charts, and following this video we have a document for you to go through. It captures most of these things what we have discussed so far, and then we've got some exercises for you also. Thank you.